Audio test. Audio test, testing 1, 2, 3. Audio test, testing 1, 2, 3. Good morning, everyone. Fernando Campos, Executive Officer with the Board of Public Works. For today, Friday, May 19th, 2023, we have a relatively average agenda this morning. We have item number 1 presented by Noor Malhis, item 2, Scott Gibson, item 3, David Ventura, item 4, Jassy Lozano, item 5, Wesley Tanagiri, no presenters on 6 and 7. Item number 8, James Young, and item number 9, Rashanek. I apologize for your last name, Rashanek, but item number 9. For those Bureau representatives that are on the line on Zoom, Scott Gibson, Brian Cowitz, Eve Pena, and Iona June, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Should the board members have any questions for your Bureau, we will open up the audio lines for you at that time. Just to confirm audibility and listening from our Zoom participants, Brett, if you can just confirm if you can hear us, if you can unmute your microphone at this time. Evie Pena, can you hear me? Evie Pena, if you can unmute your microphone at this time. Hi, good morning. Are you able to hear us? Hearing no confirmation from Evie Pena or Brett McReynolds, let me just do some troubleshooting on our end. Brett and Evie, if you can hear us, you can unmute your microphones and then just confirm that you can hear us on Zoom. All right, let's try this again. Good morning, everyone. Evie Pena, Brett McReynolds, if you can hear us, can you please just confirm? Audio test, testing 1, 2, 3. Council audio, if you can hear us, we're not able to have connection at this time with the Zoom participants. Testing again. Audio test, testing 1, 2, 3. Audio test, testing 1, 2, 3. Evie, if you can hear us, can you please confirm? Audio test, testing 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I can connect, but it's going to give me feedback. Commissioners, our apologies. We're just trying to get a connection through through the Zoom application at this time. We are not getting any confirmation at this time. Audio test testing 1, 2, 3. Audio testing 1, 2, 3. Evie, Brett, or Iona, if you can hear me, if you can please unmute your microphone at this time. We just want to confirm you can hear us through Zoom. No, that doesn't work. Let's try the other one. Are you able to hear us? No. Yeah. Yeah, we know that. All right, Misha, let's. Audio test testing 1, 2, 3. Audio test testing 1, 2, 3. Evie, Brett, or Iona, if you can hear us, if you can please unmute your microphone at this time. We want to confirm you can hear us on Zoom. Audio test testing 1, 2, 3. Audio test testing 1, 2, 3. Evie, Brett, Iona, if you can hear us, can you please unmute your microphone? We are trying to test to see if you can hear us on Zoom. Audio test testing 1, 2, 3. Audio test testing 1, 2, 3. Evie, Brett, or Iona, if you can hear us, if you can please unmute your microphone and just confirm you can hear us on Zoom. Audio test testing 1, 2, 3. 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 Eva, Brett, Iona, if you can hear us, can you please unmute your microphone just to confirm you can hear us on Zoom? Oh, Brett, we cannot hear you, but we can see you speaking, or we can see the microphone moving on our end. Yes. I can.
Can you hear me, Dr. Campos?
Evie, yes, we can hear you, but we're having a very low audibility on our end. Can you just keep talking to us, and then I'm going to adjust the volume on our end?
Okay.
Perfect,
Good
yeah.
morning, everyone. I was able to hear our fellow Bureau members that are present. Maybe their volumes are also low, but I can hear them. I hope everyone has great plans for this weekend.
Evie, thank you so much.
Happy Friday.
I increased. Thank you so much for helping us out here troubleshooting this. We were able to raise the volume, and it seems like we are now connected with the Zoom participants in the meeting as well. So thank you again this morning.
Okay.
Commissioners, apologies. Sometimes audibility or troubleshooting happens when we lend out our room to others, but we are becoming experts as time goes by on troubleshooting and doing audio, visual troubleshooting here at the board. For those members that are joining us through the Zoom application, our apologies for starting behind. Typically, we start by 10:05, 10:10. Really quick, item number 1 will be presented by Nur Mulhis. Item 2, Scott Gibson. Item 3, David Ventura. Item 4, Yasi Lasana. Item 5, Wesley Tanagiri. No presenter on 6 and 7. Item number 8, James Young. And item number 9 will be presented by Rashak Nick Varjavand. For members of the general public that are here to provide any general public comment or commentary on any of the items, if you can please raise your hand at this time by pressing star 9. If you're joining us through the Zoom application, you can please raise your hand at this time by pressing the raise hand icon. If you're joining us here live at City Hall on the 3rd floor, if you can fill out speaker cards and hand those speaker cards over to myself. I'm sitting in the front side of the room. Again, this is for general public comment or commentary on any of the items for today's agenda. At this time, we have 2 members of the general public that have raised their hand. We're just going to identify who those members are at this time. Caller with the last 3 digits of 985. If you can please unmute your microphone at this time by pressing star 6. Please identify yourself and which item you'd like to speak on.
Hello?
Hi, good morning.
Thank you. My name is Peggy Lee Kennedy with the Venice Justice Committee, and I would like to speak on agenda item 5.
Perfect. Thank you, Betty, for calling this morning, and apologies for...
Peggy.
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 Thank you, Peggy, for calling this morning. Our apologies for starting a little late behind this morning. We will get started in the next couple of minutes, and I will add you to the queue for item number 5. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We have one other member of the general public that has raised their hand, Margaret Malloy. Margaret Malloy, good morning to you. If you can please let us know which item you'd like to speak on.
Hello, Dr. Kempis. I would like to speak on item 5, and I submitted a PDF, which is a visual presentation of my points, and I'm really hoping that you would be able to facilitate showing that during my public comment.
I am going to try to do my best. We did get a late start this morning with our audio connection issues, but I am going to do my best to share my screen as you speak during general public comment. I can assure you that all commissioners do have your packet, and that has been printed out and distributed to all commissioners this morning.
I really appreciate it, and we as a collective group really appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Last call for any members of the general public that would like to provide general public comment or commentary on any of the items for today's agenda. If you could please raise your hand at this time by pressing star 9, click the raise hand icon if you're joining us through the Zoom application, or submit a speaker card if you're joining us live in City Hall. Great, thank you everyone. President Garcia, apologies again for the late start. We do have all presenters in the room, and we have identified all callers that are going to speak this morning. If you'd like, I can go ahead and get started by starting the recording. President Garcia, you're now in record mode.
Great, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting for the Board of Public Works for Friday, May 19th, 2023. Dr. Campos?
Good morning, everyone. Fernando Campos, Executive Officer, establishing roll call and quorum. We have President Garcia, Vice President Villegas, President Pro Tem Davis, and Commissioner Reyes. President Garcia, you do have a quorum at this time. Commissioner Corzan is in the building, and he'll join us a little late this morning, President Garcia. President Garcia, we do have two callers on the line. I'm sorry, 2 callers on the line for general public comment. We have 1 speaker card for general public comment as well. So in total, 3 speakers for general public comment. And we also receive speaker cards on all the items for today's agenda, 1 through 9. In addition to that, we have 2 members of the public that are joining us through Zoom for item number 5.
Okay. So let's take public comment now. No.
Absolutely.
We'll do via social platform, the Zoom platform, and then we'll take the public speaking, in-person public comment.
Absolutely. We'll start with Peggy. Good morning again, Peggy. If you can please unmute your microphone at this time. Caller ending in 985. Caller ending in 985. You can please unmute your microphone at this time. You'll have 2 minutes to speak under general public comment.
Hi, Peggy Lee Kennedy. I'm a third-generation resident of Venice, and specifically the coastal zone area of Venice, and I'm really opposed to the project. Agenda item 5, you keep approving these projects specifically one at a time, but you haven't looked at what the true meaning behind them are and the cumulative effect of all of the anti-homeless things that are being done in the coastal zone. I think it's really important that, this commission and committee and the city council all look at things in totality. You can't just do things that make it so that somebody with a lift can't open up their get their wheelchair out. More and more of these fences, planters, and developments that are really closing off public space to try and keep unhoused people from repopulating an area after they've been either displaced or criminalized. First of all, it's not a beautification project. You need to identify what it really is and look at the real issues of totality that's going on in our area. You can't just keep removing public space to everyone because somebody wants to call it beautification and close a street or close a sidewalk or remove access for people who need ADA access, and let alone a wheelchair. How about a stroller, pulling up and trying to unload a stroller off the side? I walk with a walker and a cane. It's very difficult for me also finding locations to park where I can have access because of all of the parking and sidewalk access that's been removed in our coastal zone. I think that it's important that you review it, not on a case-by-case basis, and you need to review the totality of the access,
If you could please wrap up.
public space removed
Thank
in
you.
the
Thank
coastal
you.
zone.
Thank you for your comments.
Margaret Malloy, would you like to speak under general public comment or only item 5?
Sure, Dr. Campos, I'll take general public comment. So I think that the Bureau of Engineering, Department of Public Works is basically functioning in a way that's not legal for participation in issues of development in the coastal zone. BOE does not have standalone authority to issue revocable permits for development on public property in the coastal zone area of Venice, west of Lincoln Boulevard, that create obstructions on public property or destroy existing public infrastructure or limit access and or create ADA violations. Section 13250 and 13253 of Title 14, Division 5.5 of the California Coastal Commission Administrative Regulations require that a change of use or a change of intensity of use requires a coastal development permit because they involve a risk of adverse environmental effect, adversely affect public access, or involve a change of use. All of those apply to many of the permits that BOE has been just happenstancely issuing in the coastal zone area of Venice, including item 5, which is on your agenda today. Section 4 of Article 10 of the California Constitution mandates maximum access to the coast. BOE cannot undermine that. It's a mandate, and BOE must be compliant with the Coastal Act. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. President Garcia, that clears the queue for general public comment on Zoom, and I believe we have one speaker card here.
Yes, we do. Thank you very much. Mr. Mike Greenspan, if you're here, thank you.
Okay. Mike Greenspan? Hey, I'm actually here and there's a full board. Last time I was here, there was only 60% of you. The vice president and the president pro tem were absent. You guys make $100,000 a year. I expect you to be at the meetings. If you don't go to the meetings and you're not maybe at a Public Works convention in Houston or New York or something, then maybe they should start deducting from your $100,000 a year for your absenteeism. But congratulations, I actually see all 5 members. It's not always something that happens. Now, there's another thing. Oh, by the way, could you show me the clock so I can see my time? Thank you, Fernando. Anyway, the Board of Public Works, one of the times I was here, and it was when Kevin James was the chair of it, they had a hearing on Ceston about removing some trees. They had not 1, not 2, they had 3 public hearings. And on the 3rd public hearing, they opened up the public comment a 2nd time. And guess what we learned? The city employee that was supposed to go out to the site never went out there. How many employees do you have with the Board of Public Works? And shouldn't they be going out to the site? Maybe I believe a little bit stronger than that. Not just the city employee, the 5 members of the Board of Public Works should be going out in the field and looking at these things before voting on them, having a better understanding of it by going out there in the field. There's nothing wrong with going out in the field. You shouldn't be just sitting in comfy leather chairs, getting big fat salaries, making decisions on things you don't even know where they're located. I remember giving the directions to the previous Board of Public Works under Kevin
minutes.
James how to get to Cessnon, to look at the trees. They approved it, but it took 3 hearings. 2
Thank you.
times the public hearing was open.
2 minutes,
And-
if you can please wrap up.
Thank you.
Okay,
2 minutes.
can we show the clock so I can see how much time I have? Huh? Okay, oh, one other thing, that 25 million you guys wasted last week on the water treatment.
Thank you. Dr. Campos, does that clear our public comments?
Yes, it does.
Thank you very much. Public comments now officially closed. Moving on to the first item on today's business, which is the approval of the minutes of Friday, May 5th, 2023. Is there a second to my motion to approve this item?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Corson. Dr. Campos, there's a first by me and a second by Commissioner Corson to approve the minutes of Friday, May 5th, 2023.
Absolutely. We'll start the voting tabulation now. We'll start with you, President Garcia,
Aye.
Vice President Villegas, President Pro Tem Davis.
Aye.
Commissioner Corzine.
Aye.
And Commissioner Reyes.
Aye.
This motion is adopted and carries unanimous. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. My understanding, we do have a public comment on item number 1, so we'll take it in a bit. Give me a second. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our meeting. Those are joining us via the Zoom and also here in person. It's Friday, May 19th, and we are ready to go. We also have a supplemental meeting that it will open up right after we close this meeting. So with that, I start with item number 1, and we do have a public speaker, Mr. Greenspan.
Mike Greenspan, and I live in this valley. You see, item 1 includes council districts 2, which I live in, 3, 4, which is part of the basin, part of the valley, and 6, that's the one where they don't have a council member because Nuri resigned with that racist comment, racist anti-Semitic comments. But you guys don't even go out to the valley to see what you're approving. Let me tell you about these bike paths and pedestrian paths. They're on and off. What do I mean by that? You might have a mile of it, and then from one bus stop to the other, you have nothing. You have to go out there and use the sidewalks. So we're doing what I call spot construction on these things. We aren't doing real construction, but if you guys on the Board of Public Works actually went out there and looked at these bike paths and pedestrian paths, you would see the incomplete system. Now, just throwing money at it does not do it. You actually have to see what you're doing, what you're approving, and what's not being done. Hey, It's only our taxpayer money. Let's just piss it away. You guys are getting big fat salaries. It doesn't matter to you. All right, so the council gets about $224,000 a year, and you get $100,000. I guess you're a lower level city employees by their comparison, but you make decisions affecting all of us that cost us money. And I think you make some very bad decisions. You make decisions uninformed, and you haven't even taken a look at what you're voting on. Isn't it nice sitting behind a comfy chair, getting a big fat check and not even knowing what you're talking about and saying, 5-0, yay. That's how you guys operate. So this thing, because
2
I
minutes.
figure you people don't even know where the valley is, you're wasting
If you can
a
please
good
wrap up.
$60 million for something
2 minutes.
that you don't even know what you're doing.
Thank you. Dr. Campos, is that the last of our public comments for item number 1?
That is correct, yes.
Public comment for item number 1 is now officially closed. This is a request from the Bureau of Engineering in Council Districts 2, 3, 4, and 6, a memorandum of understanding between the City of Los Angeles and Los Angeles County Metropolitan Transportation Authority, Los Angeles River Valley Bike Path Project. Recommending the board to, 1, adopt and forward this board report and transmittals to the City of Los Angeles Council with the following recommendations. 1, authorize the city engineer to execute the MOU between the city and the Los Angeles County Metropolitan Transportation Authority, Metro, for an amount not to exceed $60 million for the design and construction of the Los Angeles River Valley Bike Path Project. 2, authorize the city to accept a not to exceed amount of reimbursements of up to $60 million from Metro for the design and construction of the project. 3, authorize the city controller to deposit the funds set forth above the Engineering Special Service Fund and to appropriate therein to the Los Angeles River Valley Bike Path Appropriation Unit Number to be determined. And 4, authorize the city bureaus of engineering to make any technical corrections or clarifications to the above actions. And this morning, we have Mr. Nur Mullis here to give us a presentation. Welcome, sir.
Good morning, President. Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, Executive Officer. Good morning, City Attorney. Nur Malhis, Bureau of Engineering, Architecture Division. So on record, there's a couple, for the recommendations number 1 and 2, we're going to make some changes to it. I also understand that Executive Officer would like to make a change to the first clause of recommendation number 1, where it says, authorize the city engineer to execute the MOU. It should be board president. I believe if Fernando could put it on record what exactly that language would be. But what my Bureau of Engineering's change to this would be authorize, whether it's the Board of Public or board president and commissioners, we want to say to execute this memorandum of understanding between the city and the Los Angeles County Metropolitan Transportation Authority, Metro, for an amount of $60 million plus additional future inflation adjustments for the design and construction of the Los Angeles River Valley Bike Path Project. And then item number 2, authorize the city to accept an amount of reimbursements of $60 million plus additional future inflation adjustments from Metro for the design and construction of the project. So we're essentially removing the not to exceed amount because this account is subject to inflation, future inflation, and escalation. So to provide a background of this LA River Valley Bike Path Project, also called the LA Riverway San Fernando Valley Completion Project, is in the valley, the LA River is 19.5 miles. And the project scope for us, for the Bureau of Engineering, is to develop approximately 13 miles of new bikeway path along the LA River to fill in the gaps that are already completed. And these gaps will come from the west side, Van Alden Avenue to the west, and Forest Lawn Zoo Drive to the east, which spans Council Districts 2, 3, 4, and 6. The improvements will also include pedestrian paths, decorative fencing and gates, roadway crossings, undercrossings, petway stations, drinking fountains, lighting, operational wayfinding signage, site furnishings, educational interpretive elements, best management practices for stormwater runoff, landscaping, and irrigation. The completion of the LA River Trail system will improve regional livability by providing expanded active transportation options with new access to transit, homes, schools, jobs, nature, recreation, and other community-serving amenities. So in November 2017, the Bureau of Engineering completed the LA River Valley Bikeway and Greenway Feasibility Study Design Report. And this feasibility study design report essentially looked at 13 miles of bikeway gap that we had to complete and looked at the alignment. The ultimate goal was to determine the appropriate alignment. They looked at everything from right-of-way constraints, environmental constraints, structural constraints, utilities, and also we did different cost estimating options. And then from that point, we determined what that appropriate alignment would be for the 13 miles. And we also weighted against the bike paths that already currently existed. Like Mr. Greenspan said, there are bike paths that are currently existing, and we're trying to fill in the gap as fast as we can, so there'll be a continuous bike path along the valley. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to build upon this feasibility study report that was completed to do a total implementation. And to aid the project implementation, this 13-mile bikeway is divided into 9 different segments. And these segments are coded and described through the limits of the streets in the actual board report itself. So in December 2022, Metro provided the city a draft MOU, also known as a funding agreement, for the design and construction of the project, which stipulates the general terms of the agreement, scope of work, project costs, project schedule, funding schedule, as well as other requirements. And Metro will provide $60 million of Measure M major project funding for the design and construction as matching funds to complete the 13 miles of bike path in the San Fernando Valley. Other match funds will be secured through city funds as well as federal and state grant funds through grant applications. Now, at the time the conceptual level estimate of the project costs were established in the MOU, the overall project cost was $170 million. However, due to the recent construction cost escalations as well as additional required scope from various grantors of jurisdictional oversight agencies as the design progresses, the total may be upwards of $200 million. Therefore, the attachments of the MOU related to cost will be revised prior to final execution, and the city will be responsible for providing the remaining amount of funding to complete the project, which could be approximately $140 million. For the project to date, the city has secured funding and/or will be provided funding through grant and funding requirements in the amount of $125,850,000, including this Measure M major project funding. The funding sources include $60 million as part of this grant, or as part of this agreement from Metro, $3 million from LA County funds, $52,995,000 from Active Transportation Program funds, $6,790,000 from Measure M local return funds, and $3,060,000 of various city funds. That means throughout the duration of this project, the city would need to fund the shortfall in the amount of approximately $74,150,000. The funding shortfall will be addressed in the future through city funds and other federal and state grant funds. The current schedule in the MOU dictates that the design and construction funding will be eligible between fiscal years 2023 and 2029. Segments 1 and 2, which we're currently working on right now, it's about 95% design, and we're just waiting to execute the final agreements. Construction will be stipulated in 2024. And for segments 1 and 2, no design funding will be identified, only construction funding, but the remaining segments, it'll be both design and construction funding. It's the recommendation that we execute this MOU so we'll be eligible to receive allocation for moving forward with this design as soon as we can. And funding for this will be, as the $60 million will be as a reimbursement. So we would have to find front funding for it first.
Are you?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm completed. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't sure where we were going there. Thank you, Nur, for your very thorough report. Colleagues, any questions on this item? Dr. Davis, Vice President Villegas. We'll start with Dr. Davis and then Vice President.
Thank you so much, Norm, for this project. How long have we been planning this project in terms of the implementation of it in is it the 2nd, the 3rd, and the 6th district?
Yes, it's council districts 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, and 6, 2, 3, 4, 6. We've been planning for this. It actually starts way back as part of the LA River Revitalization Master Plan in 2007 when they looked at everything together, a holistic view of everything in the river, and this bike path was one of them. Now, for this actual standalone project to complete 13 miles of gap, we started working on this in 2017. 2016, when we implemented the feasibility study report to really look at how we're going to complete this bike path in the valley. And then from that point, and once we finished that feasibility study report, we're trying to do the best we can to, as long as funding comes in, to implement and complete everything. Originally, they wanted the 13 miles of bike path gap to be completed by 2028, by the time of the Olympics. But due to schedule and staff shortages, is mostly due to funding. We don't have funding. This will not be completed by that time. Most likely, probably 2030. That's our current stipulated schedule. So the bulk of it, to answer your question, the main focus of this bike path started really 2016.
And so it'll be 2030. Our goal was to have it in 2028. We have a combination of funds at every level of government in terms of local funding, federal funding, as well as state funding, correct?
Yes, we do. We were fortunate to receive ATP Cycle 4 and Cycle 6 funding for different segments in the valley. And our goal is to really, we have a project kind of funding implementation plan where we try to dictate or look at all the different funding sources that we can possibly apply for, the years that they're available, and historically how much contribution each cycle has. And we're trying to weigh it against our project expenditure plan to implement these, the 13 miles. And we're just doing that as we go. We're trying to submit grant applications. We're also trying to look for, we're also, of course, going after, trying to apply for city funds like CTIP, but mostly it's active transportation program funding, Measure M, Measure W for some of the landscaping and irrigation, Prop A, Prop 68, so on and so forth.
Is it too early to think about the potential of Los Angelinos getting an opportunity to work on this project? You've mentioned that we have federal dollars, and in many ways that sets an environment to have inclusiveness among the various small minority businesses by the nature of the fact that we're receiving federal funds.
Yes.
So is it a little too early to talk about what our vision would be in terms of work and how we will involve the small business community in this area? I will say before you remark that transportation is an area where we do have diversity in terms of people who provide business and small business services. What is the vision?
Well, the vision, in terms of us constructing, for design work, whether we do it in-house or we go outside, there is this mandatory business inclusion program that we would have to put in for minority business enterprises, emerging business enterprises, small business enterprises, disadvantaged veterans, that they would have to hit a target percentage to participate in the project. Construction has the same thing. We would have to have different percentages that we would have to hit. Now, for federal funding, when that gets received, they have a disadvantaged business enterprise that is more strict, and they would actually have to hit that mark. It's not a good faith effort.
That is correct.
It's something they would have to do. So by default, just the sheer virtue and protocol that the city goes through, we would have to include all the business inclusion, all the different types, small, emerging, disadvantaged veteran, women, minority.
Right, and I think that's a good thing.
Well, yeah, it's a great thing. Everyone gets included, and then they get their name across,
Right.
and more people will start using them if they do a great job.
Great. It looks like we have really worked hard in terms of the various collaborations that we have done and looking at the variables that are necessary for us to complete this 13-mile gap of work that needs to be done here. And I am certainly disappointed that we weren't able to organize and coordinate in a way to reach our goal in terms of time for 2028 for the Olympics. I mean, that would have certainly have been nice to do that. But when we look at the cost of some approximate $200 million, that comes out to approximately some $60,000 per district in terms of financial investment. And so what we're asking for us is probably a third of what the overall cost is in terms of the proposal that you're presenting today, with the understanding that there'll be an additional $14 million that we'll have to come up with, and also understanding that our staff is aggressively exploring opportunities for funding, not only in city that you've mentioned, some potential city dollars, but the state dollars and also the grant dollars, I guess, would be the areas from which we would get the additional $14 million to go with this 60, correct?
Well, it's 140 million was the figure you're referencing of the shortfall.
Right. 140 is the shortfall? I thought he said it was
I'm
60
sorry.
million and then 14 million. This is 60 million here that you're asking for the.
No, so the 60, what I mean, yeah, the 60 million is the Measure M. The total projected cost is 200. So we would have to be responsible for the other 140 million as far as Metro perceives it. And then we've already identified other funding for this. So our true shortfall at this point is 74,150,000.
I thought you said 74
Oh, yes.
million.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood you.
So as we talk about the 74 million, this 60 million is a part of that 74 million, right?
Well, the 60 million, yes,
It
it's
is a
part of
The
that.
74 million you referenced in the.
Yeah.
Correct. That would leave me about 14 million, right? Or
No,
is that not right?
no, the 60 million is independent of that. The
I
60
see.
million is independent of that, but to count the, if you want to look at the 74 million, in order to get that, we did include the 60 in the overall budget.
Right.
So everything together, our true shortfall at this point, including the $60 million Measure M funding, which we have at this report, the ATP funding we got, the city sources and other sources, it yielded 125,850,000 as the total funding we have secured, to date. And now we just have to go after the 1,050,000 between now and the future of the project.
Okay, got it. So I think overall that the project has been well thought out in terms of the variables that are necessary, from the petways to the water storm work, the transportation options, and all of those things that you have mentioned are, I think, very well thought out. And hopefully, as you have expressed, they are supplemental to the existing paths that have already in the past been built. That what we have done, what we are proposing, will fit into that in a way that will be comprehensive to the overall project. And I hope that this is compatible. And when I look at the funding on it, I guess that's going to be where the real challenge is going to be in getting it. I hope that we are able to be successful. And, again, my regret is that we weren't able to collaborate earlier enough to reach the goal of having this thing in place by the Olympics. So I do understand that it's a very difficult financial proposition for us, but it is my hope that when we have these huge projects, that we do not overlook the opportunity for employment inclusion. And so I think that because of the various levels of funding that we are guaranteed that small minority businesses will be a part of this effort, if not but for federal dollars. And so that, for me, is critically important.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Vice President Villegas?
Thank you. Thank you, Nur, for your report. Just a quick question on the shortfall. Did you have a timeline on securing those funds for the future? And if so, from what possible buckets or what possible grants?
We're looking at ATPs. We've been successful with ATP twice, so that becomes a promising funding source. We're trying to look after maybe some federal or state earmarks that we have. Of course, other grant applications like RAISE, it's called, there's a RAISE grant application. There's also Prop 68, Measure A, Measure W. We're just trying to go after all the funding sources that we can. But I think at this point, because funding is very hard to, get, it's very competitive. We've applied to, more than a few grant applications where we weren't successful. So we're trying to see if we can get maybe some larger earmark to, fund this.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Vice President Villegas. Commissioner Corson?
Thank you. I want to back up a little bit.
Yeah.
We're just voting on receiving the $60 million plus inflation adjustment. Is this a project that has already gone through the RFP process for us to pick someone to design and construct, or is that still pending?
Well, for segments 1 and 2, which we're currently working on, that RFP process has been completed, and we're at 95% design. For the remainder of the segments, that has not gone through. And to answer your first question, today it's really more for delegating for the city engineer and the Bureau of Engineering to be able to execute an MOU with Metro. We're getting, authority, we're trying to receive authority to do that and to be able to receive receive $60 million plus additional inflation and interest from Metro over the next 9 or 10 years. Or, 8 years, I would say, 7 years.
So when would you foresee coming to this body for approval for another RFP? And when you come, which segments do you think it will include?
So the next segment that's on our list is an East San Fernando Valley segment that's 3 miles, and that's going to be coded as segment 8 from Whitsett to Lancashire. That's currently in the very pre-design phase where we're writing the task order solicitation. So I anticipate we come to the board within the next 2 months to receive, authority to proceed with the design for that segment. And we're also looking to see if we would be able to start another segment at the same time. And if that's the case, it'll be a mid-San Fernando Valley segment. So we're going to be doing design. Our goal is to do as much design as we can in conjunction, and of course construction, move in conjunction activities with different designers.
If I could ask, when you do come back, whether it's in 2 months or later on, could you also make sure to include the funding update, where we are in terms of whether we've closed that gap, what progress we've made in closing the gap, and how that RFP will impact the funding we already have in place?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Corson. Commissioner Reyes?
Just to emphasize my colleague's point about the shortfall, is for, I think, for all of the agencies to do due diligence in seeking funding proactively, really looking, because we don't want to be held hostage and then have stranded assets because we could not fund it, or we don't have a source of funding for them. So that's one. The other thing is really the connectivity of this project to all elements that are progressive, sustainable over the long run. And I want to emphasize data and being a smart city, because there are a lot of opportunities, as mentioned in the plan, the opportunities to really improve on, say, stormwater capture, and also opportunities to beautify some of the lanes that are there and connect them to communities and have multi-community benefits. But the data part, I think, is going to be important as we become a smart city. I've been hearing a lot of opportunities for that, and therefore, when another RFP comes out, is to really include that smart city concept, so that everything is connected, that we can take a look at the data, that our citizens, our constituents will benefit, say if we have a heat storm coming up, that there will be some monitors going on, looking at and telling us what the trends are, and making sure that there is that connectivity for us as a city. Because this is a huge project, entailing millions of dollars, and I would like to see it benefiting the community in a more comprehensive manner. So on that RFP that's coming out next time is to do that. And at the same time, of course, I will always be on my soapbox about community level contracting, giving our small businesses the opportunity to get involved as well. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you. Yeah, definitely. That.
Thank you, Commissioner Reyes. I just have, my colleagues really asked really good questions. Nur, piggybacking on some of what Dr. Davis asked, would this be a project to be considered also a project labor agreement? Because we're getting some federal funds under that, right?
Well, for this one, yes. This is not federal funded. Metro is it's going to be local. But in the future of the $74 million gap, I anticipate some of it would be federal.
Okay.
And yes, we would, in construction, we would have a project labor agreement because our dollar cost for these would be more than the minimum threshold of $5 million. So
Correct.
100% yes.
Okay, thank you. And just to be clear, we have a couple of amendments, colleagues, that I'm going to ask Dr. Campos if he can read them into the record when we're ready. If there are any other questions, I can have Dr. Campos do that. Hearing none. Dr. Campos, do you mind reading the amendments for the record?
Absolutely. There's 3 amendments to recommendation number 1 and 2 amendments to recommendation number 2. The first amendment on recommendation number 1 would be to replace city engineer with the president or 2 members of the Board of Public Works. The second amendment would be to strike out not to exceed, and then the third amendment would be to include plus additional future inflation adjustments after the $60 million figure. So I'll read recommendation number 1 as amended with all the proposed amendments that I understand. Recommendation number 1 would read, authorize the president or 2 members of the Board of Public Works to execute the MOU between the city and the Los Angeles County Metropolitan Transportation Authority, Metro, for an amount of $60 million plus additional future inflation adjustments for the design and construction of the Los Angeles River Valley Bike Path Project. That would be the full amendments to recommendation number 1. Moving on to amendments to recommendation number 2, that would be to strike out a not to exceed amount of and also up to, and then add in plus additional future inflation adjustments after the $60 million reference. I will read recommendation number 2 in its totality with the amendments, and that would be authorize the city to accept reimbursements of $60 million plus additional future inflation adjustments from Metro for the design and construction of the project. Those would be the 2 amendments that I'm hearing and understanding from your board.
And just to be clear, recommendation number 4, that's just really for you to make any technical corrections or clarifications on the design and construction elements, right? Not funding or overall deliverables.
Yes, if that's how the board sees fit for the technical corrections and clarifications.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Just needed clarification for that. Colleagues, any other questions, concerns, or objections on this item or the amendments? Seeing none, is there a motion on the table to approve item number 1 as amended?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Corzine. Is there a second? Thank you, Dr. Davis. Dr. Campos, there's a first by Commissioner Corzine and a second by Dr. Davis to move item number 1 forward and forthwith as amended.
Absolutely. We'll start the voting tabulation. We'll start with you, President Garcia.
Aye.
Vice President Villegas.
Aye.
President Pro Tem Davis.
Aye.
Commissioner Corzine.
Aye.
And Commissioner Reyes.
Aye.
This motion is adopted as amended.
Thank you very much.
you.
Thank you, NER, and I also want to say thank you to Metro for the startup of this project. So thank you for that. I know that that's not your division, but the other folks, big division. I just wanted it in the record that we're very thankful to Metro for this $60 million.
Right. Thank you,
Nerd.
everyone.
Have a good rest of the weekend or weekend. Moving on to item number 2. This is a request in Council District 6. We do have public comment for item number 2. Mike Greenspan.
Mike Greenspan. Yes, we're closing something. What are we closing? A pedestrian tunnel. Oh boy. It kind of reminds me of something I read when I was a kid. It was talking about the Astrodome, and the article was, Houston paints its way out of a big goof. The Astrodome, the sun was coming through, getting the players' eyes, so they were painting it, and therefore the grass was dying. Well, these tunnels are a big goof, just like that Astrodome they had in Houston. And we don't want to admit it. We made a mistake building them way back when. Oh, it's a great place for a prostitute to turn tricks. It's a great place to get mugged or raped or murdered trying to go under the tunnel. It's a great place to do drugs and to sell them or consume them or whatever. It's a great place to do all the wrong things. They should never have built these things in the first place. A big waste of the taxpayers' money, and now a big waste of the taxpayers' money to have to correct the bad situation in the first place. I've seen these things happen in other parts of town. They close the gates because they're safety hazards to the citizens. And I know it's got to be done one by one. I guess the best thing you can do until you actually demolish it completely is just to gate it closed. But great place to do crimes and for people to have fun doing crimes. I sure hope we can get rid of these mistakes that we have made with the Board of Public Works and actually do projects that people like, that are beneficial to the community, and that people aren't up in arms about. So, good. And keep your time. Thanks.
2 minutes.
Dr. Campos, do we have any other callers for item number 2?
Not on Zoom, however. Let me just double check, President Garcia.
Okay.
Members of the general public that are joining us through the Zoom application, if you can please raise your hand if you'd like to speak on item number 2. Item number 2 is the project specification maintenance with the California Department of Transportation, Caltrans. If you'd like to speak, you can please raise your hand at this time by pressing *9 or click the raise hand icon. President Garcia, no additional hands raised for item number 2.
Great. Public comment for item number 2 is now officially closed. Moving on to reading it into for the record, this is requesting Council District 6 for project-specific maintenance agreement, California Department of Transportation, Tonopah Pedestrian Tunnel Closure Project, recommending the board to, 1, authorize the president or 2 members of the board to execute the project-specific maintenance agreement for the Tonopah Pedestrian Tunnel Closure Project with Caltrans. And this morning, we have Mr. Gibson here. Good morning, sir. Welcome.
Good morning. Scott Gibson with the Bridge Improvement Division with the Bureau of Engineering. And so yes, this report is regarding an existing pedestrian tunnel along Tonopah Street in Council District 6 between Vina Avenue and Cranford Avenue that obviously provides pedestrian access beneath the junction of the I-5 and 170 freeways. In recent times, it's become a nuisance and sort of a gathering ground for illegal activity. And so at the request of the police department and with support from Council District 6, BOE intends on installing gates on either end to temporarily close access to pedestrians. Because the tunnel does run below the freeways, it's within Caltrans jurisdiction, and so we are in the process, or we have developed a project-specific maintenance agreement with Caltrans to allow us to access and maintain the gates. And so today, therefore, BOE is recommending that the president or 2 members of the board execute the Caltrans project-specific maintenance agreement for maintaining the 2 gates.
Very well, thank you. Any questions, colleagues? Commissioner Corson?
Thank you. How long is temporarily?
I would say, I should say indefinitely, I suppose. There's no plan to reopen it.
Do we have to make that correction in either the Caltrans MOU or anywhere?
I don't.
Not temporary, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can check the maintenance agreement. I don't know if that language is specifically spelled out, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, we all seem to be in agreement of this. Is there a motion on the table to move item number 2 forward and forthwith? Thank you, Vice President Villegas. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Dr. Campos is the first by Vice President Villegas and a second by Dr. Davis to move item number 2 forward and forthwith.
Absolutely. We'll start the voting tabulation. We'll start with you, President Garcia.
Aye.
Vice President Villegas. President Pro Tem Davis.
Aye.
Commissioner Corzine.
Aye.
And Commissioner Reyes.
Aye.
This motion is adopted and carries unanimous. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, sir. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 3, this is in Council District 4. I'm going to call up our public speaker, Mike Greenspan. Item number 3. Okay. Very well. Dr. Campos, have we cleared, do we have any other public speakers for item number 3?
No additional speakers on item number
Okay.
3.
Public's comment for item number 3 is now officially closed. This is a request in Council District 4, construction budget, construction orders, and change orders. Tomovic and Associates Super Expedited Wastewater Emergency Rehabilitation for Sewers Program Edgemont Street RW Project, recommending the board to authorize a construction budget of $809,912.40, including contingency for the sewers program Edgemont Street right-of-way project, and 2, authorize the city engineer to issue construction orders and change orders up to the authorized construction budget for this project. And this morning, we have Mr. Ventura.
Yes.
Welcome, sir.
Good morning. My name is David Ventura, and I work for the Bureau of Engineering Wastewater Conveyance Construction Division for the Emergency Repair Program. I'm here to present on the Edgemont Street right-of-way project 2000A and recommend the board authorize a construction budget of $809,912.40, including contingency, and authorize the city engineer to issue construction orders and revise construction orders up to the authorized budget. Some background on the sewers program. On February 25th, 2022, the city awarded the contract to Matthew and Stewart Company, Tomovich and Associates, and M&R Construction as the 3 lowest qualified low bidders for the 7th round of the sewers pre-qualified list, which is not to exceed ceiling of $45 million. Currently, the sewers program is an urgent necessity type program that deals with urgent necessity projects or Class D sewers, and they typically have a duration from the request date of about a year to completion. So LA Sanitation issued an urgent necessity request on June 16th of 2021 after inspection of a sewer reach due to visible voids, multiple fractures, heavy root intrusion as shown throughout on Figure 1 of the report. Also due to the existing diameter of the sewer being 6-inch, and the defects identified, it was determined that the removal and replacement of the entire reach was needed. The sewer is located along an easement that is west of Edgemont and between Ambrose and south of Los Feliz, shown in Figure 2 of the report. The scope of the project is to upsize approximately 300 linear feet of existing clay pipe using 8-inch HDPE pipe and reconnect 11 house connections. A traditional open cut method could not be performed on this project due to the impact it would have on the multiple residents that are along the easement. The installation of the, it will be used, under pipe bursting to complete the work. The installation of a CIPP liner, which is something we typically do when we can't do open cut, was not feasible due to the size of the pipe being 6-inch, which would reduce the capacity for the system. So pipe bursting is a construction method where they essentially open a pit and they push another pipe through the existing pipe to get through. It still has an impact, but it's much less of an impact than the traditional method since it's mostly trenchless. So a schedule of work and prices was generated with the applicable fixed price and not fixed price items. And on November 2nd, 2022, Tomovich and Associates was the lowest bidder at $672,927. A contingency of $134,985.40 brings the total requested construction budget to $809,912.40, which exceeds the city engineer's construction order authority of $150,000. All 11 residential properties have been contacted during our design and lead-up phase. So we've coordinated with the project with them, and the notification of the start of construction is pending this board approval. So this completes my report, and I'm here to answer any questions that you may have on us.
Thank you, Mr. Ventura, for your report. Any questions, colleagues? Dr. Davis?
No.
No questions? Okay. Vice President Villegas? No questions?
I
Yes.
do. Yeah, I just have a quick question. The methodology of pipe bursting, just for the public certification, can you tell us how many other projects, or is this a average type of methodology that LA San uses?
So in the sewers program, we mainly use open cut or lining, which is just trenchless technology. But some of these areas that we receive that are difficult access or are causing a large impact, we would go to the pipe bursting method. And I would say it's a lower percentage of the work that we would do. It's mainly in those types of areas that we would do something like that. And it does involve a subcontractor doing the actual pipe bursting. Our pipe contractor would do the excavation work and things like that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Would this be considered one of those difficult to reach sewers?
Yes, yes, it
Okay.
runs along the two property lines, so there's houses on each side, just right in backyards and little narrow alleys and stuff.
God, when was the last time we did any repair in that section?
Last time, I don't have that information, but I can get that back to you for a repair. From the video, I couldn't tell if any repairs were done at the time, but I can look at the records to see if anything was done.
Quite a while.
Yeah, I don't, yeah, it just looks like pretty homogeneous, like it looks all the same, like nothing new was done in a long time.
Yeah, very good pictures. Thank you for adding those as well. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, I don't see any other questions from commissioners. Is there a motion on the table to move item number 3?
So moved.
Thank you, Vice President Villegas. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Commissioner Reyes. Dr. Campos is the first by VP Villegas and a second by Commissioner Reyes to move item number 3 forward and forthwith.
Yes, let's start the voting tabulation. We'll start with you, President Garcia.
Aye.
Vice President Villegas.
Aye.
President Pro Tem Davis.
Aye.
Commissioner Corzan.
Aye.
And Commissioner Reyes.
Aye.
This motion is adopted and carries unanimous. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Ventura. Have a good weekend.
All right, thank you.
All right, colleagues, moving on to item number 4. This is a request from the Bureau of Sanitation in all council districts. We do have public comment for item number 4. Mike Greenspan.
Mike Greenspan? Are we going to be doing something good? Well, after all, save this moment, seize the moment. Yes, hopefully, we're going to be giving paint to the general public. I sure hope that this paint is good paint, not some old leftover lead-based paint that you're pawning off on people instead of just disposing of it properly. Oh, here's free paint, folks. Lead-based paint. You know, the way that in the old days, all the paint was lead-based. So, and I wouldn't put it past the city to do stunts like that. After all, what's the old thing about that Trojan horse? Beware of gift-bearing Greeks. Well, the same with Angelenos, folks. When they give you something, be suspicious, because a lot of times they give you bad stuff. They were giving away food that was expired or near expired. So I wouldn't be surprised if they gave away paint that was bad paint, lead-based paint from sometime way back when. Oh, it looks nice when it paints on things, but it's bad for the health. I'm hoping that the people who should get this benefit, I hope it saves them money, because you guys are really causing prices to go up. Every time you hoot and holler about raising the minimum wage, guess what goes up with it? Prices. And the people that cannot afford it, the poor people, the disadvantaged people, the poverty people, are the ones who bear the burden. All to satisfy a few crooked unions that want to up the price of everything. Oh, let's $15 an hour, $16 an hour, $20 an hour, $25. Well, we can't afford your fucking prices. Thank you.
Dr. Campos, can we check if we have any public comments via virtual platform?
Absolutely. Members of the general public that are joining us through the Zoom application, the Board of Public Works is considering item number 4, which is the direct reuse compensation agreement with Paint Care Incorporated Recycling Division Residential Special Materials Program. If you'd like to provide any general public comment at this time, you can please raise your hand at this time by pressing *9 or click the raise hand icon if you're joining us through the Zoom application. Again, this is for item number 4. President Garcia, I do not see any additional hands raised.
Great, thank you very much. Public comment for item number 4 is now officially closed. This is a request from the Bureau of Sanitation in all council district for direct reuse compensation agreement, Paint Care Inc. Recycling Division Residential Special Materials Program, recommending the board to, 1, approve and forward this report with transmittals to the mayor in the City Council with the request that the Board of Public Works be authorized to execute the direct reuse compensation agreement with Paint Care Inc., which will provide a rebate to the Bureau of Sanitation for every gallon of acceptable paint care products given away for reuse to the public. And 2, upon the mayor's and council authorization, the president or 2 members of the board and the director of the Bureau of Sanitation or designee will execute the proposed agreement. Good morning, ma'am. And this morning, we have Ms. Yasi Lozano. Yes. Welcome, ma'am.
Good morning. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Yasi Lozano with LA Sanitation and Environment, Solid Resources Citywide Recycling Division. I'm with the Residential Special Materials Program, or the RSM program, and we manage a household hazardous waste collection program for the City of LA. I'm here to request authorization from the Board of Public Works to execute the direct reuse compensation agreement with Paint Care Inc. This agreement will provide rebate to LA San for every gallon of paint care products given away for reuse to the public. The RSM program established the Reuse, Recycle, and Reduce program, or the 3R program, where household hazardous waste items in good condition that meet our criteria are diverted away from disposal and given away to the public for free at giveaway events. These eligible paint care products are collected at the Safe Centers. LA San's RSM program manages 7 Safe Centers, which are household hazardous waste collection facilities open to the public every weekend, and we're permitted to collect common household items such as paint, electronic waste, cleaning products, light bulbs, batteries, medications, sharps for recycling and disposal. The 3R program creates opportunity for LA San to give back to the community as well as contribute to zero waste goals. This direct reuse compensation agreement can bring in some revenue and just build up the program. We had events in 2019 where we launched the program, and unfortunately due to COVID, we had to put a hold on the events. So this is timely for us as we plan to resume these events. Just a bit of background on Paint Care. They're a paint stewardship organization, which is a nonprofit, created by manufacturers under the California Architectural Paint Recovery Program set forth by the California Public Resources Code. Paint Care is the only stewardship organization that is approved and designated by the Department of Resources, Recovery and Recycling, or CalRecycle, to carry out paint reuse and recycling activities in California. And just to address the public comment earlier, this material that we do give away for reuse is not oil-based, or I'm sorry, is not lead. It is not oil-based paint. This is latex paint, which is for recycling. This is not, lead-based and oil-based paint. That is not for recycling. That gets managed differently based on the chemistry. So this is not the toxic material that we know of the lead. So this is for latex, recyclable, and it's all approved under the California Architectural Paint Recovery Program. So that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, ma'am, for your report. Any questions, colleagues? Commissioner Reyes?
Just for my edification, how many tons are we expected to divert away from the landfill for this reuse program?
That's a great question. It's always based off the amount of material that it meets the criteria that we have. So we aim to divert material that's in good condition, at least half full. And, oddly enough, a lot of people do bring in material that's almost done to dispose. To give you an idea, for paint specifically, we gave away about 250 pounds the year that we did hold these events. And now that we have the funding approved and with this agreement in place, we do plan to resume these events and hopefully have more than 250 a year. So that year that we did have reuse events, we gave away about 5,000 pounds of reuse material. And again, this has to meet the criteria that we have to make sure that the material is in good condition. The bottle or containment that it comes in is the integrity of the bottle is good. It's clearly labeled so that the public or the resident knows exactly what it is that they're getting. We also have technicians on site that collect and manage the material that also basically quality check to ensure that it's in good condition.
So in terms of outreach, how are we doing that? And is this going to be part of our Safe Centers events as well?
That's correct. So we plan to do outreach via mailers when we have these collection and giveaway events. So the way we do the reuse giveaway is we'll have a collection event, usually at a parking lot in a Rec and Parks facility, and then on the side we do the reuse portion. So people can bring in material to dispose, and at the same time we're also giving away material for reuse. So direct mailers have been a very successful way of getting the advertisement out or get the know out. We also do advertisement via social media, webpage. We held an event last year at the Washington Safe Center in the East LA area, and we also sent out mailers, and we had a very good turnout. Actually, surprisingly, all the material that was in our container was all gone, and it was a lot of material. So we look forward to doing events like that.
All right, thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you, Commissioner Reyes. I don't see any other questions. Ms. Lozano, when are you kicking off these events?
In the new fiscal year, so July should be our first event.
Okay, will you come back and give us a date so that the public knows that this is now open?
Absolutely.
And can they only get this material during the events? Can they get it outside of the events as well?
Unfortunately, no, it's only during the events. We hope that in the future that we could have a center where we can open up and have it, open during the week or Monday through Sunday, really, and anyone can come in. But due to some space constraints and just the accessibility, we don't have that option right now.
Okay, so only through events?
Correct.
Okay, understood. Vice President Villegas?
Yeah, just the question that President Garcia asked just triggered a thought. If you could use our body to share information on the rollout of your events, we could either put it on our social media, use our PIO to share that
Absolutely.
information.
Yes.
I understand you all don't have enough funding right now for outreach and things like that, and you have it posted on your website. However, we do really want the public to know of these events, so please share that information with us so that we can put it out there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I don't see any other questions. Is there a motion on the table to move item number 4?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Reyes. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Vice President Villegas. Dr. Campos, there's a first by Commissioner Reyes and a second by Vice President Villegas to move item number 4 forward and forthwith.
Absolutely. We'll start the voting tabulation now. We'll start with you, President Garcia.
Aye.
Vice President Villegas.
Aye.
President Pro Tem is out of the room at this time. Commissioner Corzan
Aye.
and Commissioner Reyes.
Aye.
This motion is adopted and carries unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you very much. He'll be right back. Dr. Davis will be right back.
Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Have a good weekend. Moving on to item number 5. This is a request from Bureau of Engineering and the Bureau of Street Services and Council District 11 for a revocable permit. We do have public speaker card, Mr. Mike Greenspan.
Mike Greenspan. I was looking at this earlier and didn't think much about it until the 2 callers called in. And they made some good points. And it had me think about some of these other things that have been done when you have the unhoused. And one of the tricks was in Hollywood, right down the street from the Hollywood Bowl. They had these tents and everything else. They cleared them out. And then they put in those big plants, the big sticky plants that there was no way they were going to come back. And of course, they put rocks on there. So you'll find these big sticky plants in some of these places where they're doing landscaping on formerly homeless encampments. Now, we're not talking about them clearing the park like they did with MacArthur Park or Echo Park. We're just talking about other areas. Got to remember, folks, when you go building luxury apartments, the people in tents have nowhere to live except their tent on the street because housing's not affordable. And so now you're going to be doing stuff that will alter access to people in wheelchairs, people in strollers, everything else, just to make a political statement to tell the homeless to get lost. instead of relocating them, putting them in better places than the street, finding buildings that could be rehabbed, that might even be a step from a wrecker ball, and all the construction dust that would be there when they wreck it or demolish it or implode it. So do your thing and fuck it all up and have the residents very upset that they won't be able to go along their own streets that they paid for.
2 minutes.
Thank you. Dr. Campos, can we go into our virtual callers?
Absolutely. We do have 2 callers on the line through Zoom. We're going to go ahead and start with Margaret Malloy. Margaret Malloy, if you can please unmute your microphone. I am going to try to share my screen to showcase your presentation. Just give me 30 seconds and see if this
I would
works.
really appreciate that.
And I will let you know. Okay, I am now sharing my screen. You should be able to see it on Zoom as well.
I've just read the City of Los Angeles Bureau of Engineering mandate is the lead agency for planning, design, construction management of the city's public buildings, infrastructure, and open space projects. As you can see, in the coastal zone, you're not a standalone agency, and you have to comply with the Coastal Act. Section 4 of Article 10 of California Constitution is maximum access. Keep going, please. We don't want our sidewalks busted up. Here it is. You need a coastal development permit for a change of use in the coastal zone, which can adversely affect public access. BOE has been called for this. If you go through the slides very quickly, Dr. Campos, you can see that you are actively blocking public access to major infrastructure. Please just go one at a time quickly. There we go. Keep going. BOE is responsible for this. This is months and months of public parks closed to public access. This is planter boxes. Please keep going because I really want you to see. 2 people cannot pass each other. 1 man has to stand to the side. That's ridiculous. This is 1 block from the beach in Venice. Completely ridiculous, but illegal. Not just ridiculous, illegal. BOE cannot interfere with public infrastructure as a standalone agency. And you can see that none of this is ADA compliant. You need to activate enforcement. No more permits. There's a perfectly required sidewalk width around public storage. You cannot minimize it to the absolute minimum requirement where the landscaping abuts the public parking access, and it completely destroys people's regular access to their cars, whether they have a wheelchair, a walker, a stroller. It is a violation of ADA. It's also a violation of the Coastal Act. And
2
as
minutes.
has been
Please
shown
wrap
many
up.
times in Venice,
Thank you.
BOE has issued standalone. Please finish the slideshow.
Thank you. Please wrap
Speaker,
up.
your time is up.
Thank
This
you.
is a one-off presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. It's 2 minutes.
Commissioners will go on to the next caller. Caller ending in 985. Caller ending in 985. If you can please unmute your microphone at this time by pressing *6. Peggy, you'll have 2 minutes to speak under this item. Please go ahead.
Hi, Peggy Lee Kennedy. I completely support Margaret Malloy's comments and her slideshow and the pictures, and I just want you to know that that is absolutely not a complete representation of all of the public space that's been removed. And calling it a beautification project is inappropriate. They're removing public space and minimizing public space to make it so it won't be populated by unhoused people. And that's the truth. The fences, the planters, and they're making it impossible for a disabled person like myself to even get out of the side of their vehicle or find a place where it isn't obstructed because of so many planters and fences out to the edge of a sidewalk. It's ridiculous. And this, I know, third, is not a beautification project. This is to try and make it so no unhoused people can be there. You know, the real solution isn't removing public space, and you should not be allowing them to get a permit to change the access to public space for to restrict access to the least of us. It's inappropriate and inhumane. I hope you will consider this as you look at these projects, especially in the coastal zone, where access is key. I think that the totality of it is, you have no idea how it affects the regular residents here, that they're so hateful of people who've been made homeless, that they have to remove all this public space. The entire area around the library is
2
now
minutes, if
fenced
you can
in.
please wrap
can't
up.
even cross Venice Boulevard.
Thank you, ma'am.
2 minutes. Thank you. President Garcia, that clears the queue for public comment on item number 5.
Great. Thank you very much, Dr. Campos. Public comment for item number 5 is now officially closed. Appreciate the callers that have called in. We do have the slideshow, and we were all made aware of we all have copies of all of this. Thank you so much. All right, moving on. This is a request from the Bureau of Engineering and Bureau of Street Services in Council District 11 for a revocable permit encroachment in the public right-of-way 315 South 4th Avenue landscaping and irrigation system, recommending the board to, 1, authorize the city engineer to issue a revocable permit to encroach within the public way behind the curb along 4th Avenue, Rose Avenue, and 3rd Avenue, abutting the property at 315 South 4th Avenue, subject to the conditions listed in encroachments. A, 3-foot wide landscape parkways, decomposed granite house walks, and drip irrigation system. B, 18-inch convenience strips behind the back face of the curb to allow on-off access to parked vehicles. C, a 5-foot wide pedestrian access route. And D, 4 missing trees to be planted along 3rd Avenue to the satisfaction of the Bureau of Street Services. And this morning we have Mr. Tandjiri. Yes, we do. Good morning, sir. Welcome.
Good morning, Wesley Tandjiri, Bureau of Engineering, Central District Office. The item before you is a request for a revocable permit, or R permit, to authorize the encroachment of landscaping, irrigation, and at-grade parkways at 315 South 4th Street, which is within Council District 11. As you can see in Figure 1 in the board report, the property, which is a public storage facility, is surrounded by 4th Street, Rose Avenue, and 3rd Street. The property owner submitted a request for an R permit to install landscaping adjacent to the property in 2019. After several rounds of plan review, the Bureau of Engineering West LA District Office approved the design. However, prior to the start of construction, Council District 11 received opposition from a community group. Upon further review from engineering management, it was decided that board approval would be required. At that time, engineering staff worked with the applicant, Streets LA staff, to ensure that plans complied with the Streets LA Parkway guidelines, as well as the Bureau of Engineering's board-approved sidewalk encroachment policies. The encroachments include 3-foot wide landscape at-grade parkways, house walks, 18-inch wide convenience strips, street trees, and a drip irrigation system along all sides of the project. A 5-foot clear sidewalk is provided along the entire property. Staff have reached out to the Department of City Planning and the Coastal Commission and were not required to go through any additional processes. Staff also reached out to the community group, however, were not able to resolve their concerns with the proposed landscaping. Staff also received several communication from residents and the community, some in opposition and some in support. The previous administration of Council District 11 recommended construction be phased in order to reduce the impact to the public right-of-way. However, Jeff Cow of the new CD11 administration was informed recently of the project, and his office is in favor of the project, but also to complete the project in one single phase. Staff has also reviewed the project with the Mayor's Office of City Homelessness Initiatives, or MOCHI, and Lakeisha Williams was involved and has approved the project. This concludes my report, and I'm available for any questions you have.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tanagiri. Before we do that, I just want to make sure that we clarify our jurisdiction. Mr. City Attorney, can you clarify our jurisdiction in the Venice area?
Yes, the Bureau and the board have the authority to both bring the revocable permit to you and have you approve it. When the revocable permit is issued, the Bureau and the board then have the authority to issue the appropriate permits to allow the items described to be constructed. There is no jurisdictional issue, and as staff have reported, they've actually reached out to the other potential authorities, including the California Coastal Commission, and have essentially received their approval as well. As described in the report on page 4 of the report, it describes that the applicant has submitted updated plans for the revocable permit, which are consistent with the board's previously adopted policy for these kinds of encroachments. And then further on page 7 of the report, it describes with some detail the improvements, including the preservation of a 5-foot wide pedestrian path, i.e. sidewalk, which is compliant with the ADA, California Building Code, and other applicable provisions of the law. In short, there's nothing to miss.
Very well. Thank you for that clarification, Mr. Jordan. Any questions on this item, colleagues? Vice President Villegas?
Thank you. Thank you to our city attorney for clarifying that. Just wanted to state that it's important for us to have this item before us for public comment and for transparency, seeing that it's a long-standing issue in this CD11. And I'm glad that BOE was able to check in with the new administration and review the project, and with the mayor's office as well, since we're dealing with a lot of special services that we need help with, to aid those that are unhoused. And I'm glad that this permit is before us. Some of the callers, said that the planters and the beautification that's going to be placed in this area will not allow for wheelchair access. Can you clarify that information for us?
So wheelchair access or ADA access along the sidewalk will be provided by the 5-foot wide sidewalk that will remain adjacent to the planters. The planters will be adjacent to the curb. There will be house walks, which is a perpendicular concrete walk from the curb to the sidewalk. So there will be open areas where people that park the cars can make their way to the sidewalk from the curb.
Okay. And then I'm not familiar with the areas that were pointed out to us on the presentation today. I don't know if that's on this project.
No, I think those were other areas within the Venice area that they felt were blocking ADA or public access.
Okay, I can't speak to those because I'm not familiar with that. Not that I haven't been to them in the past, as some previous speakers say that we don't go out to the field, but I'm just making a clarification that for this particular area, the slides that were shown to us are not part of this project today before us. Is that correct?
To my knowledge, yes, no.
Okay. All right, that is all for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Villegas. Any other questions, colleagues? Seeing none, I think a lot of my questions were answered by Villegas's questions. Just to clarify, we've checked all of our balances in-house, meaning our city home listing with a new administration, and they are in approval. The new administration in Council District 11, and they are in approval as well, with a slight change that this will go into one phase, one single phase, and not broken into different phases.
Yeah, so to clarify that, the phases was a recommendation from the previous CD11 office, and it wasn't part of our recommendations as the Bureau of Engineering to issue the permit. However, the current administration felt it was better to go all at once.
Understood. Timeline for this project?
So that is a private development hired by a contractor hired by Public Storage. That'll be up to them on how fast they proceed. I also don't know when they plan to proceed. That'll be a question for Public Storage.
Okay, but your team will be out there to just make sure that this private development adheres to all city standards, right?
Correct. We'll issue a permit and we'll have Bureau of Contract Administration inspectors out there.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, any other questions? See none, any objections? See none, is there a motion on the table to move item number 5 forward and forthwith?
So moved.
Thank you, Vice President Villegas. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Corson. Dr. Campos, there's a first by VP Villegas and a second by Commissioner Corson to move item number 5 forward and forthwith.
Absolutely. We'll start the voting tabulation now. We'll start with you, President Garcia.
Aye.
Vice President Villegas.
Aye.
President Pro Tem Davis is out of the room. Commissioner Corzan
Aye.
and Commissioner Reyes.
Aye.
This motion is adopted and carries unanimous. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Dr. Campos. Thank you very much, Mr. Tanagiri. Have a good weekend. You left us already, but your item has been approved. Moving on to item number 6. This is an administrative item in Council Districts 8 and 13, and we do have public comment for item number 6. Mike Greenspan. Dr. Campos, do we have any other comments, public comments for item number 6 via virtual platform?
No, we do not.
Public comment for item number 6 is now officially closed. This is an administrative item in Council Districts 8 and 13. The mayor and city council have approved and authorized the Board of Public Works on behalf of the Bureau of Sanitation to execute transfer agreements, addenda, and related actions for the Round 3 projects, the project support letter, policy, watershed investment, strategic plan, and related matters to Measure W Safe Clean Water Program. And we do not have a speaker on this item, right, Dr. Campos?
We do have a speaker. However, the speaker indicated that he would pass on item number 6.
No, I'm sorry, any presenters?
No presenters.
No presenters. Is there a motion on the table to approve? Is there a second to my motion to approve item number 6? Thank you, Vice President Villegas. I'll take that as a second. Dr. Campos is a first by me and a second by Vice President Villegas to move item number 6 forward and forthwith.
Absolutely. We'll start the voting tabulation now. We'll start with you, President Garcia.
Aye.
Vice President Villegas. President Pro Tem Davis is out of the room. Commissioner Corzan is out of the room. And Commissioner Reyes. Aye. This motion is adopted.
Moving on to item number 7, this is a release of stop notice, Golden State Roofing. We do have public speaker card for Mr. Mike Greenspan. Dr. Campos, we do not have any other public comments via virtual platform.
That is correct.
Great. Public comment for item number 7 is now officially closed. This is a communications of release of stop notice for Golden State Roofing. Golden State Roofing is transmitting a release of stop notice in the amount of $6,159.80 for work done in connection with the North Hollywood Sewer Maintenance Yard project. The primary contractor is Ford EC Inc. Is there a second to my motion to approve item number 7? Thank you, Commissioner Reyes. Dr. Campos, there's a first by me and a second by Commissioner Reyes to move item number 7 forward and forthwith.
Absolutely. We'll start the voting tabulation. We'll start with you, President Garcia.
Aye.
Vice President Villegas.
Aye.
President Pro Tem Davis is out of the room. Commissioner Corzan.
Aye.
And Commissioner Reyes.
Aye.
This motion is adopted and carries unanimous.
Great. Thank you very much, Dr. Campos. And now for our oral report, we have the item number 8, and we do have public comment for item number 8. Mike Greenspan. Do we have any public comment via virtual platform?
We do not.
Great. Public comment for item number 8 is now officially closed. This is the status update on major upcoming street improvement project from the Bureau of Street Services, and we have Mr. Young this morning.
Good morning.
Welcome.
President Garcia, Commissioners and Bureau Representatives, and Dr. Campos. My name is James Young, Superintendent with Streets Renewal Division of Streets LA. This information is being provided to keep the public informed on the upcoming resurfacing projects to minimize the impact on our community as well as delays. For additional information or concern, you can contact our coordinating section for the Streets Renewal Division at area code 213-847-3200. The following major street projects is scheduled in the Metro and Valley region during the week of 5/21 to 5/27. Saturday, 5/13 through Sunday, 5/21, from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. We'll begin coal milling and paving Sepulveda Boulevard from Sherman Way to Van Owen, CD6, Van Nuys Neighborhood Council District, Council, Paving Preservation Program Fund. Additionally, we will provide the update on our 22-23 Pavement Preservation Program during the week of May 21st through the 27th, 2023. The Valley and Metro region will complete 10 projects with a total of 8.73 lane miles. The press releases has been distributed and notifications have been issued. Streets LA has coordinated with council offices to assist and outreach to our stakeholders. We have coordinated with the Los Angeles Department of Transportation for traffic control and assistance. This information is also available on our Streets LA website using the resurfacing open projects icon. This concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Young. Any questions for the Bureau of Street Services? Seeing none, thank you, sir. Have a good weekend.
You as well.
That reaches the end of our regular meeting. We do have a supplemental meeting today, so I will adjourn today's meeting, given that Dr. Campos clears the desk.
President Garcia, in as much as the item is a supplemental item that was agendized before your board on Wednesday, May 17th, continued to today, Friday, May 19th. This item is supplemental. No need to adjourn the item. You can continue it as a supplemental item number 9.
Great, thank you very much. So we'll continue it. Would that be item 1 or 9? Got it. Give me a second, though, because I need to read it into the record. Here we go. I wrote it as a special. That's why I was thinking it was a special. Okay, item number 9. We are not adjourned yet. We are still going at it. This is item number 9 for street closures, Town Avenue at Slauson Avenue, Los Angeles County Metropolitan Transportation Authority Rail-to-Rail Active Transportation Corridor Project. And this is a continuation from this past Wednesday to today. I will not read the recommendations. We have already done that. I am, however, going to, once you come up,